Hello, everyone. Hopefully my sound's doing pretty good right now. Let me click into another screen. Hi, I'm John Ware Jr. The reason for this, for the Unclothed Post-Mortem live stream, is I wanted to kind of take people through the process of making this video, what inspired the video essay. So first off, I'd just like to say welcome. If you eventually see this on a playback or you kind of get in here a little late, just wanted to, just say welcome either way. Hopefully some people watch this, and please share and hit that like button. Don't want to take up too much of your time. I know everyone's busy these days and wanting to, get business handled. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through what kind of the making of, why I did it and how. So, and you can also follow me on Twitter at John Ware Jr., as spelled by the same spelling, just exactly how it is on the logo that you see on your screen. Also, if you haven't watched Unclothed, about love scenes and meaning in cinema, then the link is in the comments. It's in the description of this video. You can pause it or you can go back and watch it later. But just wanted to, like I said, give you some insight on what prompted me to make this video and some of the process that went behind it. And even if there's going to be more Unclothed videos in the future. So why did I make Unclothed, a look at love scenes and meaning in cinema? Well, I had started to see a few things online that were kind of interesting points. Well, yeah, I would say interesting to be kind here. I saw that, first off, it was Timcast News, Tim Pool's company. It showed, there was she's not on there anymore. Her name is Lydia. I believe her name is Leiterman now, or that's her maiden name. I'm not sure. She would always say on kind of an offshoot spinoff podcast that they have in that company about how, there's no, sex scenes are meaningless to the story or the plot of a movie or TV show. I also heard this said once again by the actual host of the show, Mary Morgan, or Ghost Girl, as some people call her. And so I really was like, wait, what? Are you serious? Like, I understand if you're looking at a particular show and the sex scene is just there, just thrown in there, but to say that it's meaningless if you really break things down of how a scene operates, the story in full context, the tone, the style, the aesthetic of it, and if it fits or not. So that was a little bit interesting. Then came Tony Baker. And Tony Baker, I believe, is a comedian. I'd never heard of him before. And he said something akin to the same thing about, like, I don't need to see cheeks clapping. Sex scenes don't add anything to the, to the entirety of the story, and the plot is just gratuitous stuff. And I said, wait a minute, time out. How? That's actually not true, because as someone who's studied, I just don't watch films, also study them. There's certain select films I really prefer to study. Obviously, that's just anybody. You can't study all films that you watch. And same thing goes with television shows. And as someone who's been, directed, who's done his share of directing, not like I've done a lot, but I've directed a short film. I've also went to communication school, so I understand how storytelling operates from a technical perspective when you're dealing with the visual medium of video, visual medium and cinematics. And also, having been directed myself, helping out fellow students with their class projects, I found it to be rather ignorant, in the sense from a not a cognitive standpoint, but from an intellectual and knowledge-based standpoint, of someone not knowing exactly what they're really talking about in the sense of telling a story. So much is in, like, culture war and all this other stuff, but no one is really discussing craft anymore. And so when these three things, when Lydia from Timcast, Mary Moore from Pop Culture Crisis, and then Tony, my friend who shared Tony Baker's little video clip on Instagram. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't actually true. This is like, do you not know what people go through to really make a film, how hard it is to make a film? And so that's what inspired me to make it. And in the video, if you've watched it or you will watch it, you'll notice I reference action scenes. And the reason I did that is because if sex scenes are meaningless, then action scenes are meaningless as well. They're just gratuitous. There's no point in seeing them at all. And I think that does speak to a culture that does not appreciate artistic craft here in America. Obviously, if you've seen any movies or TV shows, you can kind of see everything's about messaging or propaganda or whatever, regardless of which political side you're on or where you land on certain cultural issues or your own morals. And I think that the unappreciation of craft, of how to tell a story from a crafting perspective, forget about where you land on certain things, aspects and messaging or stories or concepts in a particular story, even if you're considering prose, you really have to figure that there's a lack of craft in this country. If that is the pervasive knowledge of one way or the other, it's just gratuitous for, just to get your rocks off or titillate you, versus, and also on the flip side of someone just saying it's completely unnecessary. And that's why I decided to make the video essay. Why I decided to go in, produce it and everything else. Now, originally when I wrote the script, I did mention Lydia and Mary Morgan and Tony Baker, but I didn't want to get into a situation, or not that I would be scared of them or anything, but I wanted the focus to be on the craft itself, not any potential like, ooh, someone said you said this was wrong. Like, people on the internet can be very sensitive, and I'm not saying they are, but maybe they are, maybe they're not. But I didn't want to get into a situation where things are very much, how can I say this? Things are very much contentious and everything's taken off of, the craft part, which I wanted to really focus on, versus the whole thing about getting to some culture war debate or culture war back and forth with somebody. I wanted to stick to craft, which I think, like I said, is sorely lacking in this country, if not other parts of the world. So initially in the script, I gave a little bit of history about like Hitler, the Pope, and I believe even Stalin. When the first sex scene was released in cinema, there was no nudity in it. I think it was called Ecstasy. And they were just like, oh my God, this is horrible. But the thing is, from a craft perspective, I'm like, okay, I watched the scene and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is not bad. Obviously, growing up in the 90s, I've seen a lot of different stuff. So I do think a lot of people don't really appreciate what that means. And maybe that's also a reflection of people in America's attitudes towards sex in general. So much, if you've listened to all these podcasts about dating and relationships or anything cultural about how dating's gone to hell, marriage rates are low, divorce rates are high, promiscuity, this, manosphere, that, all this other stuff, you can I kind of gauge like, okay, yeah, our philosophy on just intersexual dynamics is kind of off, and and there are some valid reasons behind it, between the economy and all this other stuff. So that's why I didn't want to get into a big potentially have a back and forth with anybody about this or calling people out or something like that. Maybe I would have got more views if I did. But like I said, I wanted that to be the focus. I wanted the craft and the storytelling of the three respective scenes to be about the focus. So to be about the craft of telling a story or expressing character dynamics, through sex, just as you see action sequences, kind of tell a bit of, give us character insights on things about the character. Like if anyone's ever watched a CW show, let's say Arrow, because I used to watch Arrow, there really wasn't much there in that sense, because they had to shoot 22 to 24 episodes so quickly. They had to get all this stuff, kind of like this assembly line of production with these fight scenes and fight choreography. But when you get to something like a Daredevil or a Captain America Winter Soldier, which is featured, both of those are featured in the video essay, just very short, brief clips of my favorite moments as it pertains to action scenes. You see the aggression, and you go back and watch those. You watch Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier from 2014. You see the way Bucky wields the knife, the aggression, how he's going forward, assaulting, Cap defending. Yes, there was moments where Captain America charged, but throughout that Causeway street fight, you're seeing Bucky going forward and forward and forward, trying to, within a very aggressive style. You see also with Daredevil, you see him beating Wilson to a pulp with his bare hands, and just like this, almost like ratcheting up until he eventually lets out that primal scream that Kingpin actually told Poindexter Bullseye to do earlier in the series or in that season. So you can kind of see where it is, like, and you see the brawling, the tie, the ropes that's like Lotway and Muay Thai. You also had a clip in there of Anakin versus Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith, and even in the behind the scenes interviews and the featurettes of the DVD, Hayden Christensen said, like, Darth Vader's style is a lot more aggressive, a lot more aggressive than Anakin Skywalker's. There is that change that you do notice. So that's where I kind of draw the comparison. Like, if you're going to say that sex scenes, like graphic sex scenes, are gratuitous, same thing with violent sex scenes. No one says a thing about John Wick or about anybody being cut open or anything in that nature. Now, there's times you can leave things to the imagination depending on what you're watching. But for the most part, if you're going to make a comparison between sex and violence, let's make the comparison, please. Like, be fair and be intellectually honest about it. Now, the name Unclothed. So that actually is interesting. So most Sunday mornings, I watch a live stream on Positive Fandom's YouTube channel. Go check her out. And she has a thing called Sunday Brunch. And it was just it was a random conversation. They were talking about love scenes, just as I was talking to, just like the essay. And I'd already had the idea to actually do it and actually just go ahead and make do it. But I didn't, I was just kind of like, I'll probably, get around to it. And then I made a offhanded comment, just to kind of like in the comment section, I said Unclothed. And I was like, after I wrote it and posted, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go with that. I think that's a good title. But yeah, that's the basic thing of this title. It's just one offhanded comment of me trying to weave around words for the comment section in a live stream. So it wasn't really anything too fun, too really interesting, or like I played with a lot of words. The subtitle was a bit more tricky to deal with than the actual title itself. Unclothed. Like, there it is. Now on to the format. The format of this, I decided to go video essay for a few reasons, actually. Number one is I'm a big fan of Like Stories of Old. Like Stories of Old is possibly my favorite. I think at this point now he's the only video essayist that I really watch as it pertains to cinema. I really think he's really the only one, because I think what he offers, and he covers philosophy. He's done stuff on Blade Runner, Tolkien, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, all these different, movies and properties. And he goes through philosophy and humanity and everything else, and everything that kind of encompasses even romance. And his name is Tom Van Linden. And he really takes the movies he enjoys and really tries to offer them, and tries to go deeper into their meaning, as in the philosophical kind of notions about it. He studies the directors, he studies the film itself. He goes through a lot of different things, and he has such empathy in his voice. And I think because he also has a lot of empathy just in general, I think he's an empath, or an empathetic person. I think if that's the term I need to use. I think that is really something that is very much akin to who he is. I admit my personality is a bit more aggressive, a bit more to the point, but that doesn't mean I don't have empathy or don't want to seek insight and knowledge. And so not really trying to emulate his style, but I do think that an exploration of not getting, I think an exploration of what exactly, why we have express ourselves sexually the way we do is a bit more, is a level is a deeper layer than whether or not to have sex with a person. So there's, do I have sex with them? Do I have sex with them? But then when in the act that you do have sex with someone, what body movements are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why is it that you prefer this position or this pace or this type of touch? And that's kind of a reflection of the video essay itself. Why did Khal Drago just go, always go for, the donkey style position? Why did, the play on the mirroring of the opening scene of Basic Instinct and how that mirrored the scene between Sharon Stone and Michael Douglas? And okay, so that does that mean that Sharon Stone's character Catherine Tramiel actually killed Johnny Boz? I have a theory that it's still kind of ambiguous, but most people will say she did it. But that's a different subject for a different day. I have a valid reason for it. But those two. Then you have with P-Valley, you have the relationship dynamic between Andre and Autumn that that while he's a man in public, he's this kind of public figure. In private, she runs things in the bedroom, like back him into the bedroom, her always on top, sticking the fingers in his mouth. Well, she chokes him, he doesn't choke her. That is those details. And those details I did my best to convey in the video essay were things that I want people to think about. That's why at the end of it, as you watch something, because like, oh, okay, yeah, but ask yourself why. Like maybe it is something that a director just did gratuitously just to show, just for titillation, for entertainment, because you're on a premium network like a Showtime or an HBO, and they're paying for something. They gotta, at least you gotta show them the goods. Like what is it beyond that at all? And so that's something that I encourage people to do. And I think, like Stories of Old, even has me questioning certain things about myself. And I think if you watch any number of his videos, you sit back and think, and this is also part because he's good at, writing and editing, something I've, grad school, communication school, you learn how to write and edit something together. So that's where I get things. So that's where I got the kind of the style in which I wanted to do it, because I didn't want to say like, oh, you guys are wrong. I was like, no, ask yourself these questions, reflect on the things you do with your partner or former partners, because maybe that gives you better insight to what and why you do the things that you do. And maybe that can be not so much a therapeutic thing, but more along the lines of introspection. I wanted to give people more, examine here intellectually, but also reflect and then do some introspection on yourself. So that way you can know yourself a lot better, and you can maybe figure things out, and maybe you can make better decisions on who you sleep with, don't sleep with, continue to sleep with. Maybe that's it. Maybe that'll spark something in you. So this was a very scripted. I wrote an audio script, like old school audio script. I didn't do an audio visual script because I didn't have all the clips, and we'll get into that in a second. But the thing with writing the script was very much, coming of, like describing what I'm seeing. So I'm watching this, and I'm watching clips of certain, Basic Instinct, Game of Thrones, and P-Valley, all to get, like, I'm just watching these and writing them out. I go reread it, edit it. And then when I go to the editor, I used the free version of DaVinci Resolve by Black Magic Design, which is free. They have a paid version that's like, I think about $300. So I go in, I write the script's done. And then it's like, okay, as I'm editing this together, I'm cutting out some of my dialogue, because I'm like, well, I can just let the visual speak for itself. It's a visual medium. So if you're doing video essays, let the visuals do the storytelling for you. Let the sound and audio do the storytelling for you. Sometimes you may do it a little too, you need to figure out that balance if you're going to put it on YouTube, because, well, because of the copywriting and all this other stuff. So another reason I chose, so the tighter editing is I can edit more. There's words of mine I can cut out, unlike with a live stream where I got to, I've heard myself do a few ums. I've done a few, stumbled across my words or whatever. That offered a more structured base, and that's why I preferred the video essay format to this. Now, it took a while to edit. It took hours to edit that together. And the hardest part, that was the most tedious part, but the hardest part really in doing this was finding the footage, because I'm doing sex scenes. They're not widely available on YouTube. If I can find on YouTube or anywhere else. Plus, streaming services don't allow you to download or screen capture stuff. So, Tom Van Linden, if you can let me know where you get all your footage from, you will be my best friend forever. I'll send you a fruit basket or something. But I think the thing is, if you're doing this, the footage part, especially with something as graphic as these scenes are, mind you, these are graphic scenes. Like the preamble filler stuff with Meghan Markle and Patrick J. Adams from Suits, or the scene from Westworld, or the clips I've got of Daemon and Rhaenyra from House of the Dragon. I use those to fill stuff in, which is what you have to do, which is something that you just kind of have to do. And so I got to the point where I'm like, man, where can I find these? How can I get this or get that? And so I was able to find a site. Luckily, I was able to get some clips. I'm not going to say what it is. Was able to get the clips that I needed. Get some decent quality, which that's another thing too, was quality footage. That was tough. But I was able to get the quality, at least good enough quality footage. And then I was able to get the edits I needed together. Do some things and edit things together. The thing is, I really wish I'd had like one of those AI enhancers. And then I can video enhancers. I can enhance the quality so everything is kind of like seamlessly on a quality perspective looking great. But maybe down the road that'll be possible. There is an uncut version of this that I do have. Obviously, if you've watched it already, or when you do watch, you'll notice there's certain parts that are blurred out for obvious reasons. And so there is an uncut version. I don't know how we'll make the uncut version exactly available, but the uncut, you see everything version is there. The nudity is not even really that big of a deal so far as what kind of the thoughts I'm putting out there so far as covering those particular scenes. So I don't think that's really that big of a deal in that sense. So that was really the hardest of it. The writing was fine, was more, like I said, writing was tedious, editing was tedious, but sourcing the footage was the hardest part. And with that, I really go and I want to talk about, will there be more Unclothed? Will Unclothed continue? Obviously, I got the main video essay. Then I've also got this post-mortem live stream that I'm doing. I will say yes. I'm planning to do another one. It will be just one scene, though. I'm not doing 3 scenes is tough. I think the one scene, doing the 3 scenes is a good start. But I will be doing, there will be a combination of video essay format and maybe some live streams as well. And the reason I want to do kind of mix those up is because number one, sourcing the video footage. And number two, I think certain discussions, certain things lend themselves more to that, more of a audio only format, as opposed to something that really needs to be edited and rewatched and all this other stuff. So it really depends on what the need is of what I'll be covering. There's going to be a few things in there that I very much look forward to covering. I'm not going to tell you which the first one is going to be right now. I'm kind of stuck between the two on whether to do a video essay about a singular scene or an intercut of scenes, or do a audio only like live stream format of this, like this, to talk about something on a more grander scale, which the scenes, really and truly, the scenes don't really matter. The choreography of the scenes, I think it will be more the buildup. So when I go into that one, that's a lot more, that has a lot more, like, think of it like an entire series about that, kind of about that's an erotic series, something I have to do like via live stream or pre-recorded, just for the time purposes, because to go through all that and figure out footage and stuff is a bit more difficult. So that's where things are going. So the biggest takeaway I want people to take away from Unclothed as it progresses, as it goes on, is while sex has meaning. While sex has meaning, making love has meaning, how we express ourselves physically with our partners has meaning, and also it can mean something in cinema. And also would like, if future directors or writers or whatever, I've write prose, I've written screenplays before. I want them to take away, or I want them to gather, like, at least to make them think. I don't want to tell them like, oh, this is this way or that way. Like, no, as I said in the video, yes, they can. Yes, a love scene, especially a graphic love scene, can add to the plot, can add to the story, can give you character insights. It can give you those. It can give you a richer experience. But you have to kind of figure certain things of what you're looking at. You have to, don't just dismiss it. I think the dismissive attitude, I think to kind of get people out of this dismissive attitude about things. And I really wouldn't want that to be the case. So as I progress through this, hopefully more people will watch. Hopefully more people will like kind of get a better understanding, whether you're interested in this topic for whatever reason, you're a filmmaker yourself, you're a writer, whether you're a screenwriter or even a prose writer or poetry writer, whatever your medium is, to get that extra meaning, to focus back on craft. Which I think is sorely missing. I think so much people get bogged down in, is this good? Is this bad? Is it the culture? No, is it quality? Let's go back to talking quality. Everyone's going to have their own aesthetic tastes. I went to undergrad and studied art. One thing, my instructors in art school in the mid 2000s taught me was that, everyone has their taste. Everyone has what their threshold of what they can and can't handle. That has nothing to do with the quality of the artwork itself. I always give people this analogy, and I'm going to go a bit racial here, is that if I were a photographer and I did 2 portraits, one of a black woman, one of a white woman, and I put them both up for sale, and they're both evenly lit given their skin tone, hair, and everything. They're both like shot at the same angle, three-point lighting setup, all this other stuff. Everything's equal. Only difference is the subjects. Do I have to adjust lighting? Yes. Okay, fine. That's life. So the question is, if they're in the same pose, the exact same pose, relatively same build, hair length is exactly the same, whether I added extensions of both their hairs or whatever, or stylus or whatever. Background's the same. If that indeed, if everything else is the same, a person's purchase or the demand, or let's say the prints as opposed to the original, sell a lot more. One sells more than the other. That's not an indication of quality. That's just how many more people prefer to see certain things. Like, they prefer, they find one thing more appealing than the other. Or if I want to go, let's say, an abstract painting, if one is red, one is blue, and someone prefers blue, that doesn't mean the red one is lesser quality. It's just merely a preference for whatever aesthetic they're trying to get in their house, whatever they want to look up at when they wake up in the morning and go to their, near their above their fireplace, or whatever it is. That doesn't mean the quality is any less. The style of Denis Villeneuve, how he's gotten these slow, methodical movies like Blade Runner 2049, Arrival, Dune, and what I'm going to assume is also going to be Dune Part 2. He's got those, but versus someone who's a lot more frenetic, where things are quick cuts and everything else. Like, there's a lot there that goes into making these movies and having these directors and writers really have their style and having their style to it. The crafting is what I think has been missing. And I think people's views on sex scenes, or at least for those who agree with, Lydia, Mary, and Tony, they're their attitude towards it it's reflective of that. But knowing like, oh, it's a sex scene, like, no, you might want to actually look again and study. Again, there's in between watching a movie and studying it. Studying requires a couple of viewings. So I hope people really gather that. But yes, when exactly the next Unclothed is coming, I am not completely sure. I will keep you guys updated, but it will be sometime soon. It won't take 6 months or whatever. I will be doing another Unclothed soon. And I think with every video essay, I'll do a post-mortem and I'll do a post-mortem and really try to go into, a discussion, kind of like you view a movie and then you discuss, or documentary, you discuss it afterwards, have like, Q&A if there's ever anyone in the comments that has questions. But I think those will be it. So like and subscribe, please. I will be having more coming very soon, I promise. Also, please share this with your friends and family and whoever you think might be interested in this topic. Also share which is also in the description of this video. Also share the Unclothed video essay. I think it's something that a lot of people could take into appreciation for those of us who like storytelling, who like meaningful storytelling, genuine meaningful storytelling about how people evolve and interact and how the plot can thicken or there can be questions about certain things. So until next time, guys, enjoy yourselves and hopefully spring will be here pretty soon. Bye.